Hey guys, and welcome to the podcast show. I'm your host Khalid Mohidin, and today we have a special show for you. Obviously, as you can see, Daniel Gallan's on the show once again, and I'm so happy to actually catch up with him again. It's a lot to talk about. I can see that you guys are starting to tune in. So we're gonna have a little. It's almost like a catch up session. So you guys are gonna basically sit in on a conversation with myself and Daniel, like we would normally sit at a table having a chat about cricket, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing right now. I thought he's going to bring his dinner with him, but apparently he said he just went through it quickly to make the time.
Yeah, if I start getting hiccups, I can only apologize.
So I see, Bad Panda, you finally changed it to FIFA 21. Well done. I want to know some of you guys' predictions for the new game if you're interested in that. But get your comments in the comment section below. Let's have a conversation. So Dan, for you, I mean, obviously, let's start with the bad before we get into the more futuristic, positive things.
Okay.
We know that there was so much, and for you, obviously, being in England and seeing all of this stuff from your side, it must be like, wow, what is going on in South Africa?
It's strange because like you say, I'm removed from it, and I'm primarily a feature writer, and I'm only really getting into like the nitty gritty of the day-to-day running of cricket during tours. When I'm on the ground and I'm going to press conferences, and that's kind of when I'm really embedded in that sort of in that side of the cricket world. So it's been strange working on these long form pieces, not only just cricket and lots of different stories, but just keeping an eye on the dumpster fire that is South African cricket at the minute.
Yeah.
That looks like Jesus. I mean, it started obviously with COVID and lockdown, and that was terrible because from recreational cricket all the way to the elite level, there was nothing. And I mean, nothing kills a sport like inaction, right? I mean, it can't exist if the people aren't playing. And then Telf Advice asks Lungasani Ngidi a very straightforward question, and he answers it in a very straightforward manner. And then that obviously picks at scars that have been left to fester and not heal for such a long time in South Africa. Rightfully so, even though it was difficult, it was good to see those conversations finally being had. I think there were some sections of the public, and I've written this publicly, former players who have co-opted the goodwill that emanated from the Black Lives Matter campaign and sought to rewrite their own history. I'm looking particularly at Alvira Peterson, and I that his grievances that happened to him can't be denied. But there are some things that in his past that I think, I don't know, means that perhaps he shouldn't be the person bringing this conversation forward. But be that as may, he has, and he's done a lot of good work, some not so good work as well. And then the absolute crisis at Cricket South Africa and SASCOC now get involved. It's been really strange. I mean, thankfully, the one thing in South African cricket that is still pretty robust and doing its job are the journalists. So yourself among them, your podcast and your writing and your videos, etc. So it's been good to see that at least one branch of the South African cricket industry is fulfilling their end of the bargain. And there's been no shortage of stories and articles and videos and opinions to kind of sift through. Sometimes it's been too much, and it's been chaotic, and it's been quite difficult. But it would be enthralling and interesting if it wasn't so depressing.
So from your side, where you are sitting, are there any like journalist friends that side that are asking you questions? Because obviously, with your link to South Africa, they're obviously going to ask you. They must be asking you some questions on what is going on.
People. I mean, I'm not exactly the well of knowledge on the subject the way some other journalists in South Africa are. People closer to the ground, people that have been writing. I think of guys like Telf Advice and Stuart Hess and Firdous Munda, and those sorts of writers who the guys close to the ground at times, etc., who have been writing on this for longer than me and closer to the ground than me. But when people ask my opinion, I mean, I don't really know what to make of it, because it's such a like so much in South Africa life, not just South African cricket. the dichotomy of two opposing sentiments kind of pervade this whole conversation, right? Take the Black Lives Matter. Let's ignore the debacle of the mismanagement of governance in cricket stuff, which where there really isn't a black and white thing. The company has been poorly run for some time. People that are competent like Jacques Fall have come in to try and make things better, and the fact that the fact that he hasn't been able to change things, I think shows how inept and how consciously inadequate the board and the people who hold power within the organization is. But let's take the Black Lives Matter, for example. It's been both uplifting to see these conversations being had, to see players feel emboldened enough to follow the great athlete activists in the US and now in the UK. I think we could add some athletes like Raheem Sterling, for example, or Lewis Hamilton, who have helped advance the conversation. So that's really encouraging. And I mean, we've discussed this on a podcast a while back. I'm thrilled that that's been happening, but it's also so sad to see how divided we are and think basic sentiments like Black Lives Matter can create such division and such anger and resentments. I mean, I'm currently reading an excellent book called The Unforgiven, which tells the story of the West Indian rebels who came to South Africa during the 80s. And you know, anyone who doesn't understand Black Lives Matter and what it's saying and how it relates to cricket needs to read that book, or how Ali Bakker's role in creating this sort of toxic landscape that then he miraculously shepherded us out of, us being South Africa. So it's difficult. It's hard to make sense of it. I mean, I'd be curious to know what you make of this whole thing. Like I said, the dumpster fire of cricket South Africa is that's just plainly sad. That is, and SASCOC now. I mean, for God's sakes, when you need SASCOC to come in and intervene, that tells you all you need to know about how bad things really are. But it's watching from a distance. You know, I'm always tethered to South Africa. Most, you know, A New Frame is one of the main publications I write for. I've had a couple of pieces for SA Cricket Magazine, obviously. So I still feel very tethered to South African cricket. But it's just been sad watching it from a distance. And in ways, I mean, I guess like most fans and journalists and stakeholders, just a feeling of powerlessness, that this thing you love so much, and just be eating itself from within. It's just a real sad situation.
Yeah, I think the worst part about it all is the fact that the players are they're feeling it the worst. And I mean, they're not really involved with the way CSA has been run, but they have to be affected by it. I mean, some of them, cricket's their life. That's all they're hoping to do for the rest of their life. And then things can take a massive turn. So obviously there's a video on our channel that you can watch where I interviewed Vidos Munda, one of the journalists that broke the story. She spoke quite in-depthly about and explains everything quite amazingly. So you guys can go watch that to catch up on those things. But I think, like we were asked the question if it's possible for us to find any positives in this, and that's why I made the headline that because I'm always someone that's trying to look forward and to see how we can fix things. And sometimes people say a reset button is sometimes needed to maybe just with the team being in the transition phase that it is currently. I feel like it's almost like a reset within the team itself and the team structure. That culture camp that happened, I think that's a very big positive, because I think from what Dwayne Pretorius told me, the conversations that they had were very honest.
Great conversation, by the way. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. So he basically said that there were some hectic conversations, and we had some conversation off air as well from the stuff that I wasn't obviously allowed to speak about necessarily, but and he can't also speak out of the camp exactly, so it's to give exact specifics, but you could basically get an understanding of what it is like to be a South African cricketer in this country. And it's not hard for only people of color. It's hard for people that are white too. For him to stand up for Black Lives Matter and obviously get a reaction like he did on Twitter and social media. I've seen it when I posted his statement on cricketfanaticsmag.com. We saw the reaction that he got from certain people on the channel in comments, etc. But
Mm.
we, I think the major positive that I took out of it is it's just pity that what happened the day before that article came out about the high performance management team. I thought that from Graham Smith's and CSA's perspective, the people that they put in charge of those new roles were the perfect people to take part in that particular roles. And it was a very positive move forward. Shukri Conrad, the amount of work that he's done with the emerging side before and the SAA side before, and with the Cobras winning cups with the Cobras, as well as his time with the Lions and his stint with Uganda. He has so much experience. And you hear about, I did a video on that as well, where we spoke to some youngsters. For example, Matthew Brzezinski and Reinhard van Tonder is probably the two best youngsters coming out of our system, batsmen coming out of our system at the moment, who maybe two of the best youngsters that the S19 has produced over the last couple of years that have made a quick transition into franchise cricket. And they spoke about the mentality that they're learning. So some people might say that, oh yes, but I mean, he was perfect at the SA emerging level. For me, I think that if you can get our youngsters to learn from such a young age the right mentality to have, build their mentality up at such a young level, at the S19 level, I think that's an amazing move forward. Another thing that I think is a positive in South African cricket is the women's cricket. How much women's cricket has improved in South Africa, the talent that is here, the appointment of Danisha Devnarain as well. There's some conversations we've had on the channel with her where you can really understand how she thinks and what she thinks about cricket in general. Not only the women's game, but the men's game. I mean, her playing with men's teams as well, and and she also had some input with the men's KZN team as well. So like she's I mean, there's a lot of positives I think in South African cricket, but if the structure's not correct and we end up getting banned from cricket for 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, whatever the case may be, I don't know, that's going to put us really far back.
Well, you said something interesting, which I hadn't actually considered, that one of the positives is that the team is in transition. And that might sound like, well, the last thing a team in transition needs is, all this instability at the board level and uncertainty of their future. But let's just consider, plus COVID, that they're not able to play. But let's consider if all of this happened when the golden generation was around, when Hashim Amla, AB de Villiers, Steyn, Graham Smith, Jacques Cullis, that great side that beat England and Australia and drew with India. What a travesty that really would have been if we were denied a full year of that side, if the future looked so bleak for that team. I mean, look, I am clutching at straws here. That the point of this podcast is to try and find the positives amidst the mess. I mean, that's pretty hard to do. And look, guys like Aidan Markram and Quinton de Kock won't, and maybe even like more senior guys who are close to the end of their careers, like Dean Elgar. I don't think these guys are necessarily thinking, oh well, I'm glad that it's happening to us and not a generation before. But it's been tough for South Africa on the field. I mean, it was the worst ever World Cup, apart from a few sessions against England in Centurion and maybe one session in Cape Town. They were third best in a 2-horse race in a test series. So maybe that is a positive. Maybe the fact that this team, we're not losing as much by what's happening. Obviously, it's a loss, no matter what. But I mean, if you're looking at the ledger historically of when something like this could happen, both disasters, natural and self-made, maybe it's not the worst it could be, considering when it could have happened before. I don't know. I mean, granted, like I said, I'm clutching at straws, but that maybe is something to take heart with.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it like, okay, the team is in transition. There's a whole lot of youngsters coming into the system. Even the franchise system, there's so many experienced guys that have left. If you look at the average age across all the franchise teams, it's quite low. So I think I'm going to take a thumb suck and say it's about 25 years old. If you look at a large portion of the starting 11s.
Really?
I mean, the Cobra side alone, the guys that are in that side are very young. I mean, there's Zubair Ramzas, George Linder, Calvin Rayner, Jason Smith. They're all like in their early 20s, late 20s.
Right.
So like early mid 20s, sorry, not late 20s, stupid, but the same.
So at the most.
Yeah, so mid 20s is around about most of the players. Like even someone like Corbin Bosch that came in out as well. if you look at the Warriors as well, the guys like the star signings that they've made, for example, like someone like Vian Libber coming in at the Warriors, also changing a lot of things with the guys like Andrew Birch leaving now, retiring as well. There's a lot of older guys that have left the game. Rory Kleinveld as well, calling a time up in his career, so he was actually focal point as well as Vernie Philander. I don't know how much impact he's going to have at the Cobras. I think he's also maybe we want to focus on when he has a chance to go play county cricket again. I know his contract didn't go through, so now I think.
That's right.
So I think that if these things are supposed to happen, I actually wish that it happened at the beginning of COVID, like when we had the lockdown, because this whole period would have been then an opportunity for them to clean up everything.
That's right.
Obviously, they didn't time this thing; it just happened as it happened, and it unfolded naturally. But if they get the right people in, I don't think, like Anuj says over here, that he doesn't really know if it's worth it for SASCOC to actually interfere. He doesn't know the extent of the seriousness of the situation. But if we can get the right people in at the right people in at the top level, things can change very quickly.
I think. I mean, it's interesting. It isn't worth them getting involved. Well, something needed to happen, right? I mean, it's been what, a decade, maybe less, but it's felt like a decade of mismanagement and just ineptitude at board level. I mean, the fact that, essentially what we're trying to do is, and also to have that release made public without the non-disclosure agreement. For so long, we've been asking turkeys to vote for Christmas. Something needs to change. It's a system that is inherently flawed, and there's so many roadblocks that have been deliberately put in place that stagnation kind of seems like the inevitable outcome from all of this. The way the board is set up, where people can't, the members of the provinces kind of have too much power. So that's always been kind of the tail wagging the dog in many ways in South African cricket. So I mean, like I said, you don't want SASCOC to intervene. I mean, they've got an acting president and an acting CEO themselves, but and that so you're basically getting one corrupt organization to another corrupt organization. One alcoholic to try and get another alcoholic to quit. They probably all end up drinking together if they're in a situation like that. But something needed to change, so someone had to step in. SASCOC had the power to do so, so it was well within their mandate of stepping in. From what I've read, it doesn't seem like South Africa will be banned the way Zimbabwe was. Look, South Africa is still one of the big nations. The ICC losing South Africa might not represent the same sting that it did a few years ago because of on-field performances and the way the big three of Australia, England, and India have now sort of monopolized power. And the Pakistan and West Indies boards have certainly done themselves a great favor by touring England. So they've now a more enticing prospect. I mean, it would be a crime against the cricket gods if England don't tour those two countries. So that's a boost for them. But South Africa is still a big draw. The players are still valuable. I mean, there's 10 South Africans in this year's IPL, 8 in the women's Big Bash in Australia. So I don't see South Africa getting banned. But to answer the question in a very roundabout way, I'll sum it up. Yes, it was necessary for intervention to happen. It's just a shame how it's happening, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I think what South Africa needs to do is get more cricket-minded people in high positions. I mean, that's what the Australians and, for example, England do. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about England and their structures. I mean, the way they are. We're going to have Tom Sizeland on the show a little later, who works for Sky Sports. So obviously he will have a bit of a better insight into what really happens with regards to England. But if we get more like cricket-minded people that understand the game, because cricket is quite a complex sport. It's not just a simple sport. It's a sport that takes a lot of time, effort, and planning, and to put together a tour, etc. I mean, it's days and days of competition. I mean, it's not a simple sport. You need to actually understand what cricketers actually have to go through mentally, what they have to go through in their personal lives, how much they need to sacrifice to actually play this game professionally, of course. So another positive, obviously, is that we have the talent and the quality in this country. I mean, that we can see that um, there are some great quality players. We can see when a young Luke Beaufort plays really well against international teams, and we can see like a Bryce Parsons who as well who really performs well against some of those teams. And I think that the SA under 19 level there was a problem of individualism. I think it was a whole lot of individuals, not a team. And I think someone like Shukri coming in there at the SA under 19 level will really transform the way young cricketers think. And not necessarily, I'm talking like if you listen to someone like Matthew Brzezinski, he says that Shukri doesn't really help you with regards to the technical side of how to keep your elbow high, etc., and all of those things, because he expects those players to be at a certain level when they are in the East End 19 side. So we can know that he's going to pick players that can actually play cricket, and then from that perspective, grow them mentally. And if you can grow them the mental side of the game, how to get the best out of their performance on a regular and consistency, that's a win for South Africa. But I think, Dan, for me, I think, and I know this is maybe clutching at straws as well, maybe, and I'm maybe being very optimistic, but I think that the women's game is going to save I feel that will save South African cricket in a big way. Because at the moment, we can see how much attention the Women's World Cup had, and South Africa performed really well in that World Cup. I mean, they lost very unfairly, I feel, to Australia in the semi-final. And the team culture in that squad is unbelievable.
That's right.
I think that the women's game, you can see like the amount of attention that young Ilandri girl got from posting a video on Twitter, and she just went completely viral. You can see the technique in a young 15-year-old girl like that, the technique shown in that video, you would say, wow. Like, I mean, so there's,
that's right.
I think the women's game will save, because we have the right people in the right positions, I feel, in the women's game. And I think that can actually show us, or show the men's side, how we should actually be running things, maybe, or our talent pools, how we should be running our talent pools, and right through.
Yeah, and maybe the fact that the women's game is comparatively so underfunded compared to the men's game, that the standing that the players have in terms of their hero status in the country. I mean, in my podcast, we chatted to Sune Luce, and she was telling us how frustrating it is that she's not I mean, she's not that she's got an ego. I mean, one of the loveliest people in cricket. And I know you've worked with her in the past. She wasn't saying it from a place of ego, or that she wants to be a celebrity, but she was saying, you know, we're representing our country and we do it really well, based on the last World Cup, better than the men are. And it's a shame that they're not given the same status. And you know, that's a well-worn narrative. But maybe what that does is it creates an ego vacuum where the women are just able to just get on with their job, and they can't afford to not have the right people in charge. They can't afford to let their ego or their selfish desires get in the way of putting out the best product, because their margin for error is so much smaller. As we've seen with the men's, the higher you go, the greater the fall, and South African cricket has fallen. Certainly, the men's side have fallen very low. But I wonder if there's something in that the women's, because they just have to do things right. Maybe that's why they have. I don't know. Maybe it's just been whoever's appointing the people within the women's structures has just got a sound cricket mind. But yeah, I do wonder. Maybe the ego doesn't get in the way as much. I'm not sure. I mean, like you know, but not for the last time. I'm sure in this chat we're clutching at straws here, and we try you know, we're trying to paint bullseyes around already shot arrows. But
and look here, baby. Let's just paint the picture. If South Africa does get banned from cricket, international cricket.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the standard of domestic cricket? So,
Well, then we can hear, we can kind of like imagine like what our grandfathers tell us. Like, oh man, you should have seen the domestic cricket back in my day, like Test cricket. We're like, well, we'll find out, I suppose. So
it will be like an intense like training camp of a whole lot of people just coming, intense training and matches that will just build our players into a whole different level again.
England did it and Australia did it, where they got their teams and they divided it in half, and like it was like Team Butler versus Team Root or something like that, or the Australians did it where it was like Team Finch versus Team Cummins. I'd love to see something like that in South African cricket. I mean, like there should be more of that. I mean, I remember in Australia they had a whole series of Australia A versus Australia, and that like broke records for like people were like so invested in it. Like people had favorite, like all the cool kids were supporting the A side. All the people that were like cricket nufties supported the original team. Is there talk of that happening? Do you think that they'll get the team like once cricket can resume? I mean, is that something in the works?
So what I've heard so far is that they're looking at South Africa in general is looking at a November return to franchise cricket. So that's what I've heard through the grapevines and etc. So I don't know if that's going to happen, if they're going to get things in time. I mean, obviously they'll probably need a reducing level with regards to COVID, maybe to level 1 before those things can be put in place. But that would be really positive, I feel. And I think that maybe those South Africans that are now playing in the IPL, etc., can come back and give some insight into how we can do it here successfully. I know I'm maybe just looking for anything to be positive right now, but there's small little things like that should change. I think there's a cool comment. My concern is that we will lose young players to other sporting codes. It will be a shame.
That's an interesting point, because we were talking. I recently interviewed Gift Nkope, who's the baseball player, the first African to play in Major League Baseball when he went with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I was asking him about how does a South African get into baseball, right? And he's like, well, he was born near a club, like on the club essentially, so he just got into it. But maybe we will see a dilution of the best athletes. I mean, cricket and rugby, it sort of has a monopoly, certainly amongst. They've got a monopoly on the elite schools. Maybe we'll see more posh kids wanting to play soccer as opposed to going on cricket. Maybe that'll have a knock-on effect. I mean, like, look, I'd love Bafana to be a lot better than they are, but I don't really necessarily know if I want that to be at the expense of the Proteas. But do you think cricket's such a unique, like my body type, I could somehow. I mean, Vernon Philander could have, Vernon Philander's not going to play for the Springboks. He's not going to play for Bafana, but he can become a legend of the Proteas. Themba Bavuma, what other major sport in South Africa could he realistically have played? But he's such a great cricketer. So maybe cricket actually has an advantage in that sense, where because it allows for body types that aren't necessarily cut out for more high impact, high adrenaline sports, that it'll still somehow retain a lot of them. I don't know. Again,
like I said again, we have to clutch at straws. But I know, Dan, I know you need to go. I know you have prior arrangements as well. So, but thanks a lot for coming on the show, and I think we will catch up again. Definitely. So I'll make
sure afterwards. I'll just bring it. I'll bring my dinner with me next time.
Yes, next time. Yes.
No, okay. Always a pleasure, man. It's every time I come on, I'm like, wow, look, didn't he have so many followers on Twitter last time? Cricket Fanatics is doing what now? It's nuts. It's been so great. You want to talk about one of the positives? What you guys, like I said, the journalism in South Africa hasn't let up, and we saw how taking away the accreditation of journalists last year, in many ways, started a lot of this. That really tugged at a thread that unraveled a whole narrative around the ineptitude and greed and corruption that existed in the body. So it's really reassuring that our journalists are out there doing the work, putting out great content, and just hopefully this in 10 years' time we still got a game to talk about.
Yeah. So obviously, guys, you need to follow Dan as well. Dan, you can just tell everybody about your things that you can punt before you leave.
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter at Daniel Gallan, Gallan. I realized no one knows how to spell my surname. It's now I just start spelling it. And I've got a podcast called Short Fine Legs. We chat a whole bunch of cricket stuff on there. It's co-hosted with Nono Pongolo, the Josie Stars and Lions all-rounder, who 10 years ago, or maybe even more, basically ensured that I would never become a professional cricketer because of how much better he was than me. And I realized, okay, well, this really puts things in perspective. I think I'm going to try my hand at other things. So I killed that dream thanks to Nono, but it's great to be working with him. So do check us out. Follow. We're also on Twitter. And yeah, thanks for the love.
Thanks, man. See you again, Dan.
See you.
Cool.
Bye.
So yeah, that was an awesome conversation with Dan. We tried to take as many positives out of it, etc., and try to talk about different things that is happening in South African cricket. As you guys know, we have the videos in our channel. You can go to our daily show to catch up on all the news that is happening in South Africa. But I wanted to have a conversation with another person that really had an influence on my career as well, for a while back at my previous company. So I thought that this would be a great conversation to just get a different perspective completely. So I'm going to invite Tom Sizeland to the show. So how's it, Tom?
Hey, Khalid, how are you?
Good at you, man.
Yeah, good. A tough act to follow with Dan. He's done some good stuff. So
yeah, he's doing great stuff. But I mean, so are you. I mean, obviously, you have a completely new, different job now at the moment. Obviously, working in getting an amazing opportunity. Can you maybe just give people a quick background about you and your journey that you've had in cricket?
My journey in cricket.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I'm at Sky Sports, so I've been there for almost a year, doing content for the channel.
Mm-hmm.
But I was previously, obviously, with you at SA Cricket Magazine, and then went on to Kweza ESPN and did production there. But yeah, cricket's always been the forte. Luckily, I'm the go-to person in my team at Sky now as well, just because they know how much I love cricket. And yeah, always boring them with stats and facts and stuff that they just couldn't be bothered with. So yeah, luckily they've thrown all the stuff to me at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So obviously, I wanted to bring you on to chat to you about just cricket and look at it a little bit more of a positive light. What we can actually learn from the likes of England, etc. Because I mean, they seem to get everything right with regards to getting performances on the field and doing things in county cricket to create more talent, etc. When you obviously have always been a England fan in a way, I would say, as well as a Proteas fan. But
don't make that
so what would you say from that perspective? What is going right with regards to from a cricket perspective in England?
Well, the thing with England is that obviously COVID affected them quite a lot as well. But the thing with the ECB, and it's well known, the BCCI and Cricket Australia, they're the ones with the money. So the ECB had quite a lot of funds in reserve. So they were able to deal with the past sort of 4 to 5 months quite effectively, actually. A lot of counties would have gone potentially under without the ECB support package. The ECB actually donated £61 million to the various counties to keep them afloat.
Yeah.
And not only that, obviously, the ECB have worked incredibly hard to get cricket back up and running in the country. Obviously, the series against West Indies and Pakistan were hugely successful, bar a minor incident with Jofra Archer, which almost ruined everything. But apart from that, it's been an absolute success. The domestic tournaments are back up and running. There was a brilliant sort of shortened county championship, which has now got to the final, where Somerset are playing Essex, and the T20 Cup is in full flow as well. So it's sort of slowly but surely back to normal. And actually, in domestic matches, there are a couple of thousand people are allowed back in the games as well. So things are moving along quite smoothly. And yeah, I mean, ECB is a self-governed institution, so they've just been managing to run this quite effectively on their own with the amount of funds that they have in reserve, whether that's from TV revenue or from the sheer popularity of international cricket, people coming to games in the past. They've been able to handle their finances quite well. So yeah, this process was probably the smoothest of all the cricket boards for England, because they're the ones playing international cricket. They're the ones that are hosting it.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, when we were working together, we had a lot of chats about who are the next guys in line, etc. So, obviously, when England played South Africa over here and you completely destroyed us, what were some of the positives maybe that you took out of that? Was there a player maybe that stood out to you and you thought this guy can maybe take South Africa forward?
Wow, it feels like an eternity ago because so much has happened since. But putting me on the spot here a little bit, I do remember obviously Janneman Milan and Carl Farina. Those are the two names that immediately popped into my head. They took their chances really well towards the end of the series, and it's just a shame that they couldn't keep going. Obviously, I do hope that whenever South Africa play cricket again, they will be in the next. I'd assume only the limited over squads, but I'd love to see them continue to get chances. And they're both youngsters, so it's only a good thing for South African cricket that these younger players have been playing well. And obviously, as you guys were touching on earlier, the sooner they return to cricket, the better. I think Dan was mentioning, when England had sort of Team Stokes against Team Butler, that would be a great thing for South Africa to somehow get. I mean, I know those are warm-up games, those are friendlies, and they're not necessarily warming up to anything. But it would create a lot of public interest. I mean, South Africans, you guys must be dying to watch cricket again. So I would love for that to somehow be organised.
Yeah.
With the mess that's going on at CSA at the moment, I don't know if that's even a possibility. I don't know if cricketing alone can be taken to one side and that can be organised amongst the mess that's going on. But that would be fantastic. The cricketers can then get to play cricket again. People can watch and enjoy it. And, some semblance of normality could potentially resume.
Yeah. I mean, I did a video not too long ago on the 3TC we want to see, basically, because we know, we had that 3TC tournament. I don't know how much you know about that we had, but we had this 3TC tournament where it was a weird format and it wasn't really cricket, a lot of people would say. But I mean, there's amazing opportunity here for us to be able to, with the talent that we have maybe 3 teams of different levels, maybe an under 23s team, and then maybe a SA team and a SAA team. And they can compete in a tournament, in a T20 tournament over a weekend or over a week or so. And I mean, I know that SuperSport would want to get involved with that because I know that it would be watched. Because I mean, I know that T20 cricket has become obviously the main type of entertainment for the entertainment factor. A lot of people want to watch it and get involved. And we can see in the stadiums that when there's a Ram Slam or there's MSL, we relatively can sell out stadiums. When it comes to T20 cricket, I mean, I've been to so many 4-day matches, and I know a lot of people are asking for 4-day matches to be streamed. And I really want to get involved. If there are any guys that are watching that are involved with doing streaming, etc., I would really like to get involved, and maybe we can chat about that on how we can get involved with streaming 4-day cricket maybe down the line. Because I mean, people just want to see cricket more often. I don't think the South Africans get to see their young players actually in action until maybe a SA Under-19 tournament, or they see the occasional one-day cup match on TV. And obviously we know that the MSL is on SABC, so it's not on SuperSport where majority of people actually tune in for cricket. So having a 3TC tournament like that, I think would really be a boost for South African cricket.
Yeah, well, I mean, forgive my ignorance, but was that quite a successful tournament? I mean, did it bring in any TV revenue? Did it create a bit of excitement and buzz? Were people excited to watch cricket again?
Yeah. So the initial reaction was like, what is this tournament? Like, why are they doing this? The South Africans are going to react in this way. From your time, obviously, your experience here, we know how critical we can be, especially when your sporting code isn't really doing that well. So in rugby, we could see before the Rugby World Cup, everybody was very negative about the Springboks. We won the World Cup, and then everybody was again really happy about rugby again and saying that we're the best team ever and whatever the case may be. But the same with cricket. I mean, it doesn't help that we haven't been winning major tournaments. But the 3TC, I think people hated to watch it in a way. So they wanted cricket so bad that they would just do it.
Yeah.
It's like everybody with regards to everybody knew that Game of Thrones' last season was really turning out to be putrid. but people still tuned in for that last episode, no matter how bad it was. And still,
Great
and even though
analogy.
and even though they heard it was going to be bad, they still watched it anyway because they needed to know what happened. I think it was that type of situation. I mean, I did a watch along, which I think over 1,000 people tuned in to watch the stream. So like I was very shocked by that because I thought like nobody's gonna really. It was a new idea that I was doing in cricket, and I was like, I kind of took it from me being a massive football fan. Obviously, there's so many amazing football channels, fan channels. So I tried to do a watch along, and it really did quite well. And what was nice about that was, I think the selections that they had in place. And obviously the AB factor. You know that we are obviously, everybody's still talking about AB returning again. And I think the fact that he was on TV really made a massive impact. I think that from a star perspective, with them having rights, that would have maybe brought in some revenue from that side. I don't know though. I don't think it was really communicated with the public how much revenue CSA actually made from that. And I think that's a major. That was the thing that I wanted to actually really know. So if anybody knows that, they can let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, there's already complications there if there was to be a tri tournament with like SA, SAA, and SA under 23, because immediately the first question will be, will AB de Villiers be playing? Because if he represents South Africa, then that's sort of in a weird, unofficial way suggested he's returning to international cricket.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it would give people a nice idea of where the selectors are potentially at with their thinking as to who is going to be in the team. I mean, especially, obviously the T20 World Cup's been postponed to next year, but I mean, planning has got to really be starting right now, because obviously the T20, it's in India next year, but then a year later it's in Oz. So that it's going to come thick and fast. It's going to come very quickly. If you see that, England, Australia, Pakistan, they're all playing regular T20 international cricket now. So South Africa do need to come up with some sort of way to integrate the players back into the team, get that sort of team feeling going, get an idea of who they're going to want in that 14 or 15 man squad in what is going to be less than a year, I think. So in that regard, that would be a good idea. Obviously, it's a great way to integrate the younger players through as well. If you were to have a younger team coming up against SA and SAA. And by having an SAA team, you're then increasing a pool of another, 12 to 15 players that could potentially try and put their hands up for selection. So, I don't know why that hasn't been thought of, actually. Maybe because there's so many other priorities going on in CSA that are non-cricket related, unfortunately, that there hasn't been a chance to even think about those kind of things. I mean, at least there are 11 South Africans that are going to be playing in the IPL. So there is that, at least. So they are going to be fresh and playing a bit more regular cricket, but they wouldn't have been playing together. So that would be the main issue.
Yeah, that's why I raised with Dan, for example. It was a real heartbreaking to see that they cancelled the tour, the Proteas Women's Tour, obviously. And I thought that would have been a major, major plus, because the women play some proper cricket. I mean, like with a player like Laura Wolfart is really inspiring cricketers, men and female. It's not just I spoke to a young boy about his cricketing career. I was at this I don't know if it was a tap camp, but it was a small a very small camp with a whole lot of youngsters running around, and I asked them, one of them, who's like what your favorite cricketers, and they were like, yeah, AB de Villiers, but they also mentioned Laura Wolfart, and then I was like, wow, now that's something to go forward. That's really something that's inspiring. So
well, the Women's Big Bash League is coming up soon, I think.
So
there's going to be plenty of the pros playing in there.
Yeah, 8 of them are there. And some of our best players over there. I mean, it's nice to see a young player like Nadine de Klerk also get an opportunity over there after the World Cup that she had against Australia. So a brilliant game that she had against Australia, and there's a lot of talk about them. You know what excites me the most about that is that these women play with no incentives. They're not getting paid at the franchise level or at the provincial level. They really actually just funding themselves to be able to get there. Obviously the national obviously the national contracted players, they get paid by, obviously they will get a payment, but with regards to the Western Province girls teams, etc., I mean, the coaches and then administrators, where they can help, they try to fund as much as possible that they can give. But I mean, they don't get paid to play at the franchise level. So obviously we're hoping that can that can happen, and that shows the passion. And I mean, if they can have the passion to want to get up every day, play for no crowds, and still,
Yeah.
that's the positives of here, is that people
Well,
love this game to death
yeah.
in South Africa.
You know what's happened in women's football here? The FA have announced that the women's team will be getting the exact same amount of pay as the men's team in match fees. That's huge. Brazil announced it on the same day as well. I mean, why can't that happen in other sports? It should be, at the very least, the match fees. So I thought that was quite a massive positive step forward, but I don't think it's necessarily happening in cricket yet. But at least there is something happening in sport here. Football is doing that.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I know you were maybe a bit nervous about giving comments on South African cricket. I mean, but you were perfect as I expected. You have some fan boys in the comments as well.
Oh yeah.
Look at this reaction. I mean, I know that he's been talking about you on Twitter a lot. I've been seeing it.
I've been a bit quieter on Facebook recently, so I haven't seen his comments. But normally I see him pop up on my news feed quite a lot.
Yeah. So obviously we want to involve you a lot more. Whenever you have the opportunity, we'll try to get you on, because you give some amazing insights. Even though I think that South Africa at the moment, we can learn from anybody that has a different perspective right now. Because I think that other international teams are being run so well. I think the way Australia came back after that whole scandal is something to learn from South Africa. At least the team themselves weren't doing anything that got this to spark off. It's an administrative problem. That means that they can fire people and get new people in. It's not like it's an issue where there's a player that's from top quality that's going to get banned or is in a critical position. That's a different matter altogether, much harder to actually sort out. They just need to get the right people with cricketing brains. I don't think that's what England does well as well, is the board has people that have cricket-minded thoughts about things. They have a cricket strategy of how they're going to improve the game. Cricket's not an easy sport. It's quite a difficult sport to run. It's not as simple as other sports. I mean, like if players have to sacrifice so much time to just play the sport itself, I mean, besides training and actually playing the game, a match lasts so long. I mean, you sacrifice a lot of time with your family, away from your family, etc., for this game. So you need people that understand how players think, how they behave, etc., in higher levels. And I think that's where South Africa is lacking. We didn't have a lot of people that cared about the South African cricket's point of view. They thought a lot about the administrative and money-wise, and obviously corrupt people will be corrupt people, and corruption is a humanistic quality that needs to be sorted out. So, get more people that are cricket-minded, and that's why I'm so happy about the appointments that they made with regards to the high-performance management team, with regards to like having Shukri Conrad at under 19 level, and having someone like Maketa. I know that Maketa was around. We were talking about Maketa back then. He was in and around one of the top coaches that we've had. And I mean, getting people that have the qualifications and have the experience in positions that are working with our next generation. And I think the next generation are the key to keeping this game alive. Because even if we get banned from international cricket, the domestic game will benefit from it, I feel. I think more people will be more hungry to want to watch cricket and go and watch live cricket. There could be some positives that can come out of this. It's
critical to have guys like Maketa and Conrad in those positions, because they know the game inside out. Not only do they know the game inside out, but they are used to working with youngsters as well. So they've got that mindset. They know what they want out of young developing players. So it's great that that's happened. I think that's the only sort of good news that's come out recently. And I think South African cricket fans should be focusing on that. I mean, obviously South African cricket's in a bit of a mess at the moment, but as you touched on with Australia, they were in a lot of bother a couple of years ago, but then Smith had that incredible Ashes and all was forgotten. He was come the fifth test of that Ashes series, he literally got a round of applause, standing applause from the England cricket fans. So that is the most incredible turnaround you could possibly think of.
Exactly.
So there's hope.
And I feel like even though Graham Smith doesn't have maybe the experience in this role, I think that there's certain moves that he's made that are really inspiring. For example, employing a Ice Under 19 women's coach, which was never done before. And the person that he put in charge, I've spoken to her on quite a few occasions, and Denisha's mindset about cricket and the way forward for cricket, even for the men's game. I mean, she's obviously coached with men's teams as well as played with men as well at a high level. So her thought process she's putting in there at that particular place will really inspire the women's side as well. So I think there's certain things that they've really done that are positives that we can look at from a cricketing perspective. And I think the fans out there, I think we need to stay together. And this is a platform where you guys can actually come together and just express yourself, and we can grow our love for cricket. I mean, and ultimately that's what we want to do. I mean, just because South Africa is in a bother at the moment, the national side is in a bother, doesn't mean we have to give the same treatment to our franchise players and the players and our club level cricketers. I mean, let's support this game as much as we can. We have the power to actually take this game to the next level.
Yeah, I think South Africa will come out of this mess. I think.
Yeah.
Just slowly but surely, it will happen. I think that report needs to get released, so that not just because the public should have a right to know what's going on, but it also prevents sort of rumors and people just sort of guessing what's going on. It'll hold people accountable, and the sooner that's released, the sooner the solutions can be met and we can move forward with it.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Tom, for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you again. We need to get you more often on the show. Whenever you have a time again. And as you can see, we have better audio now, like before the first episode.
That was one of the first ones, actually.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to talking to you again, and good luck with your job as well. And I hope you really thrive there as well.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Thank you, man. Cheers. So, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. As you know what you need to do next. There are some positives that we're talking about. Maybe you guys need to get involved as well with being vocal on Twitter. Let's get involved. Maybe you can tag Cricket Fanatics magazine in on some of the ideas that you have to improve cricket in South Africa and how we can do things and how we can support our fellow cricketers, domestic cricketers, etc. And our women's game as well. I think that was the key. So thanks a lot for guys for tuning in. Don't forget, obviously, to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and click the notification bell for all future live streams and as well as uploads that we have. The digital magazine is doing pretty well. We're reaching 1,000 subscribers over there as well. So please download the latest issue of the magazine. Obviously, you know that the latest issue was about Vision 2023 and looking forward to that World Cup. Let's hope that we don't get banned from South African cricket so we can actually see things going down and we can see some cricket happening in South Africa again. So download the latest issue and the previous issues. We're working hard on the 4th issue, which we're very excited about. We're going to take a very different take on this one. So I'm hoping you guys are going to enjoy that one. Thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. And I'll be back again tomorrow with our daily show. I'm going to be looking for some ideas on that. If you want me to talk about anything specific, drop me a DM or tweet us at Cricket Fanatics Mag on Twitter, or drop us a DM on Facebook, or tag us in on Facebook as well, or on Instagram. We have all of those channels as well. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you guys very, very soon.